Hey everyone, welcome back to the Overseers. My name's Proilios, and surprisingly, we are being joined back early by Nightwing. What's up, Nightwing? How are you doing? It's been a while.
Yeah, what's up? I'm doing all right. Let's get into the review. We've got Atlanta today for the playoff previews, and I'm gonna let you go ahead first, Proteus. What do you think about this team? How do you think they're gonna do?
So, the Atlanta Reign had a little bit of a shaky start to the season. They weren't quite sorted with their full team synergy, you could say. So, they were kind of like a very mediocre team during the May Melee tournament. But after that, they just had a massive upwards trajectory after they kind of realized that they didn't want to be an adaptable team. They just kind of wanted to play their own style and perfect their own art, and that worked out superbly well for them, as they did a brilliant job in the June Joust, the Summer Showdown, as well as the Countdown Cup. And they really grew to be one of the most consistent teams in the NA region, and I would argue the entire Overwatch League for this season. And yeah, going into these playoffs, they're definitely going to have some interesting looks. What are your thoughts on the Rain and their kind of journey as a whole this season?
I think for the Rain, it has been much more of a success story this season than it was in the previous seasons. I think coming into the season, you saw those mini tournaments that were being played. I think one was the Valiant Winter Ball. There was, I think, some next tournament as well, or I think that was maybe Dallas. There's a few tournaments being played ahead of the season. You could see that players like Pelican were really adding something new, a new flavor to the Rain, uh, a new kind of carry potential that seemed a bit more consistent and pretty insane. So that was something that was really looking good about the Atlanta Rain. They come into the May Melee, like you said, not looking too hot, but I think over the course of the season, they've kind of established themselves as quite consistent. And instead of just being kind of gatekeepers where they lose to everyone above them and win against everyone below, they're a little more back and forth, but they are able to take those top spots, get into those playoffs for multiple tournaments, and so uh, I think the Atlanta Rain are a little bit up and down, but they definitely do have kind of an outside chance. I think to still kind of make their contention made for winning the entire season.
Yeah, for sure. And as usual, let's do our kind of role-based breakdowns and then kind of summarize how we think the Rain will do during these playoffs. So let's start off with the tank line, Nightwing. What are your thoughts on Gator and Hawk?
I think the synergy between Gator and Hawk has been something that's been quite good for a long time, but has been, I think, much more in the spotlight this season than it was last season, just because the team has been doing better. And I think Hawk, especially, even more than Gator, has really impressed me this season. I think his level of play has stepped up. Uh, Maybe he's being better supported, but either way, I think his just timing on Diva and the kind of engages that he takes, the very delicate balance between peeling and going aggressive to get eliminations is all very, very well balanced with Hawk, I think. And on the side of Gator, I think that he is a much more stable kind of anchor for his team this season as well. Uh, I think that on certain compositions, you do see that Gator is slightly inflexible. I think I'm still not really sold on Gator's monkey, but they did make it work decently uh, when they did have to play those duplicates compositions, although they did sometimes shy away from that, if I remember correctly, just because I think the Tankline found it a little bit hard to kind of adjust to that kind of play style. But when they do have to play that Orisa sort of based comp or even the Rhine based comp, which only recently the Atlanta Rain and the Shock were playing against each other, and the other teams were kind of none the wiser. that's another look that they've looked comfortable on. So I think no complaints about the tank line for me. They've seemed to get better and better every passing month, really.
Yeah, I completely agree. And the great thing about Gator and Hawk is that they are just so individually good at what they do that Sefi actually just decided that the team would play around their strengths. Like since Gator isn't very good at Winston or Wrecking Ball, at least presumably because there's no other reason for them to not switch things up based on the meta. But just based off of that and how good Gator is on Orisa and on Reinhardt, they just decided, you know what, let's just build all of our comps around that. And rather than buy into these kind of highly mobile comps, let's try and counter them instead. And that's all they did for more than 3 quarters of the season, and that worked out really well for them. Sure, they didn't bag any tournament, but at least they were able to make some really deep playoff runs during those tournaments. So that was really impressive, and I think Hawk has just reached, like, he's transcended to a new level of diva play. He is definitely the best diva in NA at the moment, in my opinion. Probably somewhere there with space, I would say, but yeah, I think Hawk can just one trick diva into any composition and get a ton of value. And Gator with his Orisa and Reinhardt play is extremely stable. He's not like a playmaker, but he always knows what to do. His decision making is quite solid. And another great thing I feel is that he's a very like calm and collected person and player. You never see him getting too excited on comms unless kind of the match is over and they know they've won. So that's a big plus, like to have a stable kind of leader, I would say. So yeah, those are
He
my
only
thoughts.
really
Yeah,
he
go
only
on.
gets excited when he has to BM other teams.
Oh yeah,
Uh,
true.
I'm
It,
I'm sorry, London Spitfire.
that was something else. But yeah, I think let's move on to talk about the damage dealers. So the DPS line for the Rain is Kai, Pelican, and Edison. Now, the elephant in the room is definitely Pelican being most probably unable to travel to Hawaii for the playoffs because he had a collapsed lung a couple of months back, because of which I guess he's not getting medical clearance to travel. And I guess he'll just have to be playing from the Atlanta Reigns base, well, back in Atlanta, while the rest of the team travels to Hawaii. And the thing is, if he's playing from Atlanta, he's going to get absurdly high ping if they pick any kind of Asian servers. So that puts the team at a really big disadvantage, which I mean, it has been made public by Gator and a couple of other members of the team on Twitter and just other social media platforms. And that's fair, right? If arguably your best player is not going to be able to play at a stable latency, then that's a major disadvantage to your team and really not fair. Um, and there might be a situation where Edison might have to step in. And yeah, although Edison is a talented player in his own right, he's not a projectile player. He's not a flex DPS like Pelican. Although Edison can adapt and play things like Tob, because it's not a hard hero to pick up. He might not be able to perform up to that level on heroes like Echo and Farah, which evidently Pelican is amazing at. I mean, he's a Rookie of the Year candidate. There's just no way Edison can perform up to his level. At least on the bright side, they've got Kai, who is, I mean, known for his traditional hit scan play, and he has been performing really well this season. I think even his Hanzo play has been top notch, which is something we hadn't seen before. So I think Kai is definitely going to be a good, reliable source of damage and picks for the team. But it just remains to be seen whether or not they field Pelican or they field Edison, because I think the only hero Edison can really carry on is the Tracer at this point. Um, yeah, then those are basically my thoughts. Nightwing, do you have anything to add?
I think apart from the Tracer, maybe something like the Reaper, Edison can still show some of his stuff on. I think Edison has tried to be a little more flexible in Pelican's absence, which I do appreciate the effort, but it hasn't been working out too well for him. Uh, I think the Atlanta Rain may just try to play Pelican even on the higher ping like they did in the previous tournament, but it's not something I really expect to work out very well for them uh, because you could see even in that tournament that Pelican, with that added handicap, was not able to perform, uh, to that same high level. Obviously, in the Overwatch League, you've got these insanely talented players, and adding that sort of disadvantage really does kind of hit you hard, especially when you're used to playing on, much lower ping. So it's a rough situation on the DPS front in that sense. But I think, yeah, Kai does have, still a very large amount of promise to him for these playoffs, and he has been performing quite well in the rest of the season. I think the team will struggle in certain kind of compositional areas, but I think one thing that the Atlanta Rain does have going for them is that they kind of try to be like the master of like one singular comp. And so if they find that sort of comp that works for them and perfect that, then it may just be that they don't need to flex around so much and they make do with something that just works for their own team. I mean, you look at the Hog Zarya composition from last year, which other teams were not very successful on, but the Washington Justice had an insane run with that sort of composition, and other teams didn't really go for that too much, right? Obviously, they were shot down later on, but you can kind of go on a hot streak if you find something that works really well for your team and it's something that your players are very comfortable with. So yeah, that's my thoughts on what the damage lineup might just deal with.
Yeah, and do you also want to share your thoughts on the support line?
I think there's not much to the support line that really needs to be covered. I think I do want to mention that I'm quite impressed with how far Iris has come along. Last year, he was looking quite abysmal, to be honest, and it really did not look like he was gelling very well with the team. Dogman was not a very high performing flex support by any means, but at times it looked like picking Iris up was honestly a downgrade, despite Iris's decent performance in contenders. But I think through the course of this season, he's really stepped it up. And the man is basically a rookie. I mean, his end of season performance last year didn't really matter. And he has been just getting better and better, and he has really good mechanics, really good just synergy with this team, I feel. And Masa is quite consistent. I don't really have a lot to say about Masa. I think he's just kind of there. He does everything that a main support needs to do, nothing more, nothing less. And that's about it, I think.
Yeah, to be honest, you basically said everything I had on my mind, because this support lineup hasn't been like any kind of front page headline for the Overwatch League at any point, but there have been some really commendable performances from Iris, and just a sort of stability from Masa that we didn't see in the past year. But I think primarily because his brick play wasn't that good. This year he has improved upon that and kind of solidified his resource management and decision making on her. Kind of similar to Funny Astra, although Funny Astra has just reached a really high level of brick play at this point. But yeah, I think we can just talk about how far we think the Rain will be going in these playoffs. And I think I'll kick things off by saying that just based on this team's raw look and knowing their potential and knowing how consistent they are, if they were all playing on high ping, I think this team could make a run even to the finals, because it's very hard to bet against the Rain if they are going up against an even slightly inconsistent team, because you know they are going to pull out that same composition and every single time, and you know they are going to play it to a really high level. So I generally tend to think of them as a very reliable team. Um, but considering that Pelican is probably not going to be able to go to Hawaii, I think they will go probably halfway. Although I don't know, I haven't made my pick'ems yet. But the thing is, even though Pelican was playing on high ping during some of these tournaments, he was able to put out really high level performances despite all that. So I'm not too sure if it's going to make a huge amount of difference to, I mean, for him compared to how he did in the Countdown Cup. To how he plays during these playoffs, because he has played on that ping before and he has actually performed really well. So if if that happens and if Pelicans able to adjust to that ping, then I still think they can make a really deep playoff run. Do I think they can win the league? Maybe not. They do have the potential, though. They do have the potential. So if they just play super consistently, I don't see why they couldn't win the league, because they know how to counter all of these high mobility comps. They know how to beat ball comps. They know how to beat Winston comps. So theoretically, they can do it. But just considering their ping situation, I don't think it's very likely. What about you, Nightwing?
I think the current schedule that the Atlanta Rain have in terms of the playoffs might just be a boon for them. Because I think for me personally, if there are two teams that I'd probably put under Atlanta out of the eight, uh, it would be probably the Washington Justice, just because of how inconsistent they are sometimes, and the Chengdu Hunters. And the Chengdu Hunters are a team that is very streaky, and they do kind of just play their own thing, sort of similar to Atlanta, but with vastly different just hero selections. So that's something where I think Atlanta may just be able to kind of cheese their way out with kind of their own comp, like I said. But deeper into the playoffs, I think they are going to find it quite hard to really come out on top consistently, just because they do have that handicap, which other teams simply do not, right? So that's why I think the Atlanta Rain won't be able to probably close the season, but they might be able to win their first match.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it's just really sad, man. I would really have loved it if Pelican would have been able to play. The thing is, there's still a few days left, so in case he kind of miraculously gets cleared for travel, he might be able to still play on stable ping. But then again, it'll just be like last minute travel, and then you get the jet lag and all of that stuff. So at this point, it just looks highly unlikely that Pelican will be at his maximum potential. But yeah, still all the best to the Atlanta Rain. Really sad about the situation. Completely empathize. But yeah, we'll see how things go. And I think on that note, we can wrap up the video. Any final thoughts, Nightwing?
I think it's just that I'd like to mention that the Atlanta Rain has put in a lot more effort, and I think even kind of the just scouting that has been done to make this version of the team happen has been commendable, because unlike their very disappointing performances in previous seasons, in my personal opinion, I think the Atlanta Rain has really been kind of formidable in their own right uh, in many of these tournaments this season. So I hope the Atlanta fans are happy and looking forward to how they perform in the playoffs. I think Atlanta do definitely have a shot, and it's going to be interesting to see if they're actually able to execute with it.
Yep. And yeah, I think on that note, we will end the video. Thanks a lot for listening, guys. We really appreciate it. Um, if you guys would like to join us on our Discord server and discuss stuff about the league on our esports channels, we would absolutely love to entertain that. We have a lot of creative discussions over there as well. So There's a link to our Discord server in the description. You can just join it. And yeah, remember to leave a like, comment your thoughts about the Atlanta Rain in the comment section, and share this video so that other Overwatch League fans just find out about our perspectives on things. So thanks for listening, and we will see you in the next review, which will be about the LA Gladiators, and that will kind of wrap up our pre-playoffs reviews. And that'll probably be our final video before the Overwatch League ends for this season. So yeah, we will see you there, guys. It's been a wild ride so far, and we appreciate you being there with us. Bye bye. Have a nice day.